Welcome back to ESBR Boxing. We're here attempting to review. I don't know how we're going to flesh a video out of this one. Nathaniel Collins, one round, what was it, 30 seconds, if that, stoppage of RAZA HAMZA as the co-main event on Dennis McCann versus Ionut Baluta. Owen, I'm not really sure where we start with this, mate. I think everyone had Nathaniel Collins, a pretty heavy favourite in going into this. Maybe even favoured him to get the stoppage, but I don't think anyone was expecting that. Were you?
Don't really know what to say, to be honest, because it literally seemed it was the first punch that's landed. He caught him. To be fair, he's caught him clean on the jaw, but it's few and far between where you actually see a fight where the first punch does someone. I did think Collins would win, like we spoke about it earlier. He's definitely the better boxer, but from when I seen RAZA HAMZA fight James Beach, he looked obviously the better fighter than James Beach, but he just got completely outworked.
Yeah.
So I was interested to see how he gets on again with someone that's going to put the pressure on him. And we questioned what's RAZA HAMZA's chin like. Obviously, Collins has got some decent stoppages, and well, proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, we'll talk about the stoppage, I suppose. So it was, as you say, the first sort of clean punch that was landed in the fight. HAMZA was like sort of palm with that jab, and then Collins just stepped in, sort of southpaw lead, sort of like a hook meets a straight. Didn't look to have a great deal of weight behind it, but he's obviously landed right on the money and took him out. And yeah, again, there's only so much analysis you can give on the fight. Was that your first time watching Nathaniel Collins? Because it was the first time I've watched them live. I watched the Beach highlights of the James Beach Jr. fight back. Because he's not had much any TV exposure. He's been fighting in cards up in Scotland. Was that your first time watching Collins?
Yeah, obviously I knew he's got a decent reputation coming up down from Scotland. Like I say, I seen the highlights of the James Beach fight, and it was comprehensive. So I was interested to see. I didn't want to back the stoppage because I was unsure over what he's actually like. And obviously, I know he hasn't been in with the best names, but HAMZA's got a solid record coming into it, and he's fought some decent fighters. Yeah. And to be fair, from the first 3 rounds, we all said it, if he boxed and moved, he would have beat James Beach. He just fought James Beach's fight and got outworked. And it weren't, I do think it weren't necessarily the quality that won James Beach Jr. that fight. It's just the fact he wanted it more, dragged RAZA HAMZA into his fight. So it was intriguing to compare the two performances. And I wanted to get some rounds of Nathaniel Collins on live TV. And I think it must have been, 30 seconds is doing RAZA HAMZA some justice there. I think that could have even been 15. So yes, first I've seen Nathaniel Collins, and what an impression to make.
Yeah, I think we'll leave this fight and just sort of talk as a general sort of point. So as I was impressed with what I saw from Collins against James Beach, but as you said, like, or as you alluded to, Beach is tough. He's game. He'll make you work. But I don't think I'm being disrespectful by saying, but he's quite a limited fighter. Whereas you sort of said there as well, HAMZA's a lot more polished in his work. I think that's fair to say. And when I was thinking about this earlier, this might like sound a bit strange, but so when it was quite interesting, Shakur Stevenson fought Oscar Valdez and Robson Conceição back to back, and those two fought in like the months before that, and Conceição sort of gave Stevenson's Valdez hell, and those two are contrasting styles, and Stevenson dealt with them both like as easily as the next. So I was sort of thinking this was quite similar. You've got like a back foot boxer and has a sort of slugger in James Beach, and then Nathaniel Collins has dealt with them both. I'm really big on him, to be honest. He's the British champion. I would love personally to see the Nick Ball fight next. They tried to make it about this time last year. It fell through.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
It fell through for whatever reason, and I interviewed Collins before or after the James Beach Jr. fight, and he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder about that. He's not happy about how he was treated over that. Unfortunately, I don't think that fight will happen next. I've just heard them say in the broadcast that Nick Ball's now #1 with the WBC for Ray Vargas's belt. Vargas is going to fight Brandon Figueroa, and then you would imagine whenever the next mandatory is called, it'll be Nick Ball. So I don't think that fight will happen next. As big a fight and as good a fight as that would be.
No, I do agree on that. I think we'll be looking at potentially a decent foreign name, because obviously look at through the weight class who's fighting who. It's Nathaniel Collins is now at the stage of, after a performance like that, I know it's good to have the British title and win it outright, but if you're going in British title fights and you're knocking people out inside the first minute of a fight, you've got to be stepping up. Like, we've got to see more, and he's got to step up. Maybe a European title fight, maybe that's the next step. But I just think, as great as it is to say you're the British champ outright, progress on. If you're comprehensively knocking people out like that, because like you say, at first I was confused, and was it a head clash? How's he been caught? But then if you watch it back in slow mo, he's literally caught him perfectly on the jaw.
Right sort of here.
So it doesn't have to be the most power behind it, but he's caught him to absolute perfection. So step him up. But Nick Ball would be the ideal fight. I think, like you say, after you've interviewed him personally, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder regarding that. But is the Varga as good as Nick Ball's been? And as much as when I spoke to Nick Ball, obviously he's saying he wants the big title fights, but is Ray Vargas' team going to look at Nick Ball as a viable option? I know the WBC might order it, but we know what the WBC are like. He'll probably go to Sullivan and say, I don't want to fight Nick Ball, and they'll give him a free pass. So I think it is definitely up in the air, but the Nick Ball fight's an intriguing one, definitely.
Yeah, it's a great fight. It really is. I think, as we were saying, the problem for Collins has always sort of been profile. This will do that wonders. Scotland, I know you've still got Josh Taylor up there, but I think we're probably seeing the start of the back end of Josh Taylor's career. So there's a gap there for another star in Scottish boxing, and Nathaniel Collins as well. So you like, a lot of fighters are like really arsed about winning the British title outright, like, and get to keep the Lonsdale belt. He said that's not really something he's interested in. He said, do you remember when Josh Taylor, he like progressed really quickly? Each fight was like a well matched but a step up fight, and he was fighting for like a world title. He said that's what he's wanting to emulate. I think a great fight for him. Even if you want to like leave the Nick Ball fight a bit down the line, would be Kiko Martinez. Kiko Martinez, I think, would be the perfect fight for him at this stage. He fought in Japan not that long ago against a kid, Ryo Ake, and was like pretty well beat, but like he's a name in these shores. People will know him. He's a fighter stylistically. Like, you would think Collins would look great against, could potentially stop, and stopping Kiko Martinez is a huge statement. I think that's the fight that I would look to make next if I was Queensbury. And you could headline that up in Scotland, like maybe like in a 3,000 or 4,000 arena. Definitely.
Do you know what? I think Kiko Martinez is one of those as well. Obviously, he's been a world champion, but he's the type of bloke, like you say, he'll fight anyone. He 100%. He is like, as like Fury would say, call it a fighting man. Someone like Kiko Martinez, he's at that stage of his career as well now where it just seems like he's just determined to prove people wrong, and that he can still mix it at the highest level. So it's not a bad shout, but do you know what? I think there's going to be people avoid Nathaniel Collins now. After that, definitely. I think there's going to be a lot of fighters who will be thinking, we didn't really know who he was. He's got his, obviously, I know it's Dennis McCann in the card, but he's got his first sort of profiling, and he's been as comprehensive as that. So definitely, it's an intriguing matchup for him next.
Yeah, I think Kiko Martinez as well. Like, there would have been a stage, he would have been quite costly, but after another loss, you'll not have to pay him like an arm and a leg to come over. So yeah, I think that fight makes a lot of sense. But it'll be interesting, mate. As I say, it was all about, I think we all sort of favoured Collins to win tonight, but it was all about sort of how he looked and the statement he's made, and I definitely think he's done that. I'm really, really, like, obviously I've never really gone to a fight like with any preferred outcome, but I think it's been a good result for him tonight. It really has. But wrap it up there, mate. Really enjoyed that. Really excited to see what's next for him, and there's no reason he can't be out in a couple of months after that. You know what I mean? I don't think he needs too long a layoff. Cheers, Owen, for hopping on. Cheers for everyone who's watched it and made it this far. Like, comment your thoughts, who you'd like to see Nathaniel Collins fight next. Subscribe to ESBR Boxing, and we'll wrap it up there. Cheers.
Pleasure as always, mate.